I guess when we start, Stanley, I guess where do you want to start? You want to start, I mean, at the
That's whatever you want.
chapter one. I mean, just, you know, how the Barby Ranch started. And,
Okay.
I mean, are you okay with that?
Sure.
And then we'll just
Yeah.
go down and we'll try to talk about a horse race and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You think of something because
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. My grandpa's family was from Barby, Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and they came over here. They came across. He had two sisters, and they lost one of the girls across the ocean. They had to bury it at sea, and then he was born in St. Louis. They landed in St. Louis, and my great granddad was a shoe cobbler, and he cobbled shoes. And Grandpa, till when he got big enough, he left there and went to well, great grandpa made the run in Kansas. He homesteaded in Hodgeman County, Kansas, north of Dodge, and they got there in spring of the year. And I can't remember what year, but I can look it up and find it for you. Uh, he took his shoe cobbling stuff, whatever they had, and he got him a kind of a dugout built and had a house, a grass roof on it, and a dugout, and got a barn put together in the bank, and everything he had. They grew a garden, and that summer, come fall after frost, the railroad from Dodge went across there somewhere, and they set a fire, wildfire, and it burned up everything they had. He had gone to the neighbors to return. I think the closest neighbor was 45 or 50 miles, but he had borrowed a sod plow, and he took it back, and he while he was gone, that fire came through, and Grandpa and his sister and his mother were there, and this was on Hog Creek in Hodgeman County,
Mm-hmm.
and they went down and laid in the creek to keep from burning up, and so after the fire went by, Grandpa got there, and he came. There was a rock where they'd laid in front of the dugout, and Grandpa said he came when they came back up to the house. Well, great grandpa was sitting on that rock crying because he thought they'd burn up,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyway, it burned everything they had. It burnt their. They didn't have any food. They didn't have any garden. They didn't have any nothing, and so they stayed there that winter, and it was a bad winter. They like to froze to death. He kind of fixed it up where they could stay in that old barn, and or that they had a rock wall around that, the way I understood it. And anyway, they stayed in that barn, what was left of that barn. They had a milk cow, and I guess she survived some way or something. But anyway, they just about starved to death. And so when spring got there, his grandma and sister went back to St. Louis. They went back, and my great grandpa and my grandpa stayed there.
So your great grand, that been Otto?
Otto
Barbie. Okay.
Otto Inn Nicholas.
Otto.
There was Otto Inn
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas was my grandpa, and his first son was Otto C. Carl, and his dad my great grandpa was Carl, and so Grandpa Otto's first son, he named Otto Carl.
Okay.
And Otto was the one, he was 11 months older than my dad. And he was the one that ended up being the county judge here for 21 years, I think. And, but anyway, they, they, they stayed there, and great grandpa Carl stayed and tried to keep he never learned to speak English. He was German, and he never did learn to speak English. And but he stayed there to try to hold the claim. And grandpa was 13 years old, and he got on a horse and left. And he started south. He was working for some of those cattle outfits between there and Dodge and back in that country. And he ended up coming on south, and he worked for Comanche Cattle Pool and Fred Tainer, and which is headquarters there at the lake
Right out there next to
you.
Yeah.
And that was the headquarters. That place there was the headquarters to the Fred Tainer. And then he had country clear on down. Uncle Ralph's they called it South Tainer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to work for Gorham.
Arthur Gore.
Arthur Gorham. Yeah.
It was northeast of Buffalo.
Yeah, northeast of
He
Buffalo.
worked there quite a while.
Where the what creek is? Anderson Creek hits the Cimarron
Okay.
at the mouth of Anderson Creek. That was the headquarters to Arthur Gorham headquarters, and I've got a picture in my house of him camped there. And anyway, he was there. Then Arthur Gorham ended up leasing a bunch of country from the Indians in Indian Territory, going back east, clear to,
like Pahuska country over that
well,
far east?
not that far.
Not that far?
Yeah. And that was Indian Territory. Isn't that right, Janetta? Was it Indian Territory?
I think so.
Anyway, his headquarters, Arthur Gorham's headquarters, was the Box Ranch.
Okay.
That was the headquarters, and he left. He had that. He held that, and went leased from the Indians. And the government decided that they needed to take over the land and lease it to the cattle people. So anyway, they burned them out they burned everybody out of that country. The government set it afire and so get everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had that's where when the run. Then the run was after that.
That's when the round was after that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Grandpa said, or I think it was Grandpa said that either that or where'd we find out about that run over there? They had the government had a soldier or a guard every mile around that back in there, and to keep them out. And the run was to start at noon on, I don't remember the date. And Grandpa said there was a man from Tennessee. They had everything. bicycles, motor scooters, or everything.
Sure.
They to run on teams and wagons and horses, and that's how the fast horses. The fast horses all ended up down here around Cheyenne in southwest Oklahoma. If you look,
Oh yeah.
if you look at everybody that had a fast horse come from that country.
Walter Merrick's,
Walter Merrick and all of them.
Right.
Well, the reason being, those guys from Tennessee and back in there with those good thoroughbred horses, they beat everybody. When the run started, they ended up down here.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, to start the run, he said they weren't to leave until 12 o'clock. They were going to fire all of them synchronized their clocks, and they were going to fire a pistol all around, and that was the time to go. Well, he said at 5 till noon, there was a man on a thoroughbred horse, big thoroughbred horse, that run off with him. He couldn't hold him, and he run across the line, and they couldn't stop him, so they shot him, and the run started 5 minutes early.
On that gunshot.
Anyway, but he rode back into this country working for the different outfits that had cattle, and he had lots of stories. There's lots of things about him.
Well, how did he get his start?
Well, he came down, and he worked for. I think he was working for. After Arthur, I think he was working for the Tainer.
For Fred?
Fred Tainer.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Tainer's a little short guy. And his shaps hung in the museum at Meade.
Oh, really?
Hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
Little old short chaps. They were Fred Tainer's. And Daddy they used to tell me about it. We went up there several times, looked at it.
I know my granddad always called that Fred Tainer's place when I was a kid. And I used to run a trap line along that creek when my daughter Grayson was little.
Yeah.
And we'd check it every day. And she was probably 2 years old. You know how they are at that age. We'd pull by that house at Homestead, and she'd every morning she'd go, "Who lives here, Daddy?" And I started saying, "Old Man Fred." So every time Grayson goes in there today to help check y'all's cattle and stuff, she's like, "Old Man Fred's place."
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but anyway, he worked for them, and he helped. They had bad storms. He ended up. He was on one of the largest roundups in this country, and it started. It was after the blizzard and I forget what year, but they had a terrible blizzard, and all them cattle. It drove all these cattle, thousands of cattle killed, and these cattle went south, clear to the Canadian River, clear to the Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some drift fences, and them cattle piled up in them drift fences, and they just, till there's enough of them there, they just walk over them, dead cattle. But they lost thousands of cattle. Fred Tainer lost between 30 and 40,000 cattle.
Gee.
It's what broke him.
So it broke him.
Yeah. And anyway, after it was over, all of these ranches, cattle it's all mixed up down there. So they started rounding up them cattle, and there was a cowboy for each cow outfit. And there was 50 chuck wagons and crews. And it started, I can't remember what town, but it was back east of Buffalo quite a ways. And that went clear back west here to past Sharps Creek. They talk about Sharps Creek. And they had to gather that whole country, all from, back up into Kansas and clear to Canadian. and all of it. They'd gather them cattle and each man would sort his cattle off of them. And then when they got them sorted off, why he'd go home with them, take his cattle and go home. And but there was 50 different crews, and they talk about that. Don't they talk about that in this book? Anyway, that was quite a roundup at one time. And but that anyway, he ended up he came over. He made the run, and he homesteaded in Blackwell. And he had a friend that stayed there, and he come out here to work for $1 a month or something, whatever it was. It wasn't much.
Not much.
And he sent his money back there to this friend to take care of his run and his cell. Well, when he went over in a year or two to check on it, his friend had a friend and he had jumped his claim. So rather than having to kill him, he came back out here, and he ended up at old headquarters, and where Dylan lives.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one cedar tree. It was called the Cedar Place. And he came there. He ended up trading 75 steers and a shotgun for that place. And he got that quarter.
That quarter right there at the headquarters,
Mm-hmm.
right there close to the river.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
On the Beaver River.
Well, then he started out with that.
Now, was that considered no man's land then?
Oh yeah,
It was. So it wasn't part of the.
Oh no,
it wasn't part of the run.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, it was no man's land.
Yeah.
And he kept before he got there. When he was working for Arthur Gorham, he had them outfits, them cowboys that all, when there was a young cowboy come to work, they'd give him the toughest horses.
Really?
And they'd try him. They'd see how tough he was. Mm-hmm. And they were hard on him.
Yeah.
And Grandpa said, you never want to mistreat somebody because you don't never know when you'll need them.
Right.
And so he was always good to them. And there was a boy there that he kind of winged, put kind of feathered for him. And so after several years there, that boy, they separated. I mean, he went his way, Grandpa went his way, and they lost connections with him. And so he's putting some of this country together, leasing some and what all there around headquarters and back south of the river. And everybody was broke. Everybody needed money. And so he went and caught the train and went to Kansas City to the big national bank up there to see if he could get money. And he walked in that bank, and that boy was sitting on the other side of the desk.
Oh, no kidding. So his long lost friend.
Yeah.
What?
Was sitting on the other side of the desk.
No kidding.
So they formed a partnership, and Grandpa did the banking for the bank. He was their agent. And Aunt Gladys said many a times that arbor that run out south of the house, that I don't know what you remember what I'm talking about, and that seat, she said it would be plumb full of people, farmers, in line to sit in that first room in that house was his office, and to do business with Grandpa.
Really?
Yeah, and it got so bad that people started coming back to see him, and they just turned their cow and chickens and their land or whatever, and he'd take the note. And they'd go to California.
He'd just eat it and they'd go.
Yeah, they'd just leave, take their family and leave. And
what time frame would that have been? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I'd have to do
Look,
some
yeah.
reading. I'd have to look here and see.
Well, I just
But-
know the no man's land deal. You know,
That was in 1907 when it became a state.
when it comes to the state of
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd do that, and they'd take over those notes, and he'd pay the note off at the bank. And he said he never foreclosed on anybody or called their note. He never anybody that he had loaned money with. He never did. Never did call their note on anybody. But they just turn stuff over to him or sell it to him or whatever, you know.
Right.
And so that's how he got started putting it together. I mean,
Yeah.
and eventually just kept putting it together as people would leave.
Yeah.
And so that's how it got started. And he had there at that house when he had a dugout, and he over at Alpine, is it Alpine? Over by Aunt Gladys's, across the river, where Sterling lives.
Yeah. There, Aunt Gladys. Yeah.
Right east of the house out there where Dylan put in an irrigation well.
Mm-hmm.
Right on that hill. Used to, you still find some rocks. But that was the little town of Alpine.
Oh.
And it was a stagecoach stop. And there was a 2-room hotel there and some other places. But as it closed and as it fell in and everything, why, Grandpa came over there and got that 2-room hotel and put it on posts and slid it with a team over to headquarters. And that was the start of his house. He still lived in a dugout. So he started his house, and it was, of course, it's gone now. But it just makes you sick to even think.
Yeah.
But the 2 bedrooms that was the main bedroom in that house was that 2-room hotel.
No kidding.
Yeah, and he built that house. Well, his dad then came down. I think he let that place go. I don't know, turn it back. I don't know what happened there, but he came down and stayed at Grandpa's in the dugout. He lived in the dugout, and he took care of their garden and their orchard and all of that. That water used to come out of that spring and come in that house, and they had a trough there where they kept their fruit and milk and stuff to keep cool and butter. And then what the runoff from that, it went on out the back door and went to the chicken pen. It was chicken water.
Really?
And yeah, and his grandpa or his dad took care of that for him.
Yeah.
Well, Grandpa had he ended up marrying the neighbor girl, which is Calhoun has that. Leland was Leland's place.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Fred Beebe place, and he married the neighbor girl. My grandma was May Beebe, and so they put that house together, kept building onto it, and they had 7 children in that house. All 7 were born in that house. And as they build one, they build onto that house. They build a room.
Yeah.
And I think it ended up with 21 rooms
No
or
kidding.
something is what it ended up. And it tore down. But anyway, they all 7 of those children were born in there. Well, then she died with the last one. But after the last child was born, and I think it was with heart failure. But, and I remember Aunt Gladys said that that after the funeral and all, he gathered them 7 kids, and took them on a walk up over the hill with the cow trail. And he got them off up there, and he said, okay, if we stick together, we'll make it. But if we don't, we'll lose it. Mm-hmm. And so they stuck together. all of them stayed in that, lived in that house. But
Who would be who? I mean, so Gladys was one.
oh yeah, well there was Otto
Mm-hmm.
Otto M was the oldest. 11 months later was my dad, Lloyd J. John,
Mm-hmm.
and then May Little. May Aunt May was a school teacher here for several years at the last, but she taught school at the ranch in the schoolhouse. East of headquarters down there by the pipeline bridge was the schoolhouse, and then they had two schoolhouses. They had another one there right there just below the house, and that's the one that's at the fairgrounds. That's
Okay.
the schoolhouse at
That's
the
the
fairgrounds.
schoolhouse.
Yeah, I give that to the county,
Yeah.
and they had a guy from Liberal come load it and haul it up here, and but the one at the pipeline was it was bad when I bought that place from Uncle John and Aunt May. Why that east place was rotted down. I burned it and buried it, cleaned it up. But they used to, the way they did that is all the kids from the east end of the ranch. When there was kids from the east end of the ranch to go to school, why they had a little old tin barn built there around that schoolhouse down below it there, and they had a woven wire fence around that school, and the kids from the east would ride up there. Well, they all rode for a while, but then Aunt May got an old Jeep, and so she'd pick up the kids from the west end, the kids that lived on the south side of the river, and they laid rocks across that river, what we call rock crossing, and they laid rocks across there for them kids to walk across there. And anyway, people, back and forth from Grandpa's, they'd walk across that creek. But Aunt May had an old Jeep, and she'd pick up everybody. They'd haul them down from the south side of the river to the rock crossing, and then she'd pick them up. That old Jeep, they'd have it packed full and take them to school.
Take them to school.
Yeah, and she'd stay down there and teach school.
Is it the same crossing that's down there where you cross?
No, it's not. It's west of there.
It's west of there.
West of there, about half a mile.
Okay.
A big quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could take you right to it. I don't know whether there's still any rock there or not.
Right.
But it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now I went to school at the one down at the pipeline,
Okay.
but not just. I just went down there probably a year, and
Several months.
yeah, a while. And when in the fourth grade, no. Let's see, Mrs. Watson was it might have been fourth grade. And anyway,
You had other aunts too. Gladys Howe.
well, yeah, I didn't go ahead and tell you the rest of them who was there after May was either Edna or Gladys. Edna, and then Gladys. Edna Davidson. She was married to I can't think of his name, Davidson, south of Gate. They're next to the Allen place.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the northeast corner of the Allen place is where they lived. They had a big barn and hogs and sheep and cattle there. And she was married to Davidson. Then
there was Alice.
Well, Alice was the baby.
Uh-huh.
After Aunt May, Aunt Edna, then Aunt Gladys Howe was married to Burl Howe, and then Alice was the baby, and she ended up being his bookkeeper, and she was married. They lived here in town, and she divorced. They divorced, and she ended up being the bookkeeper for Grandpa. And then she died in 1953 with cancer. And I had something I was going to tell you before we got to there.
Well, it's neat how they, the names Edna and, it all comes back together. If I'm helping Britt or Dylan, and, you're long trotting, we're going to the East Edna,
Yeah.
and, and all those names.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Grayson's always asked me, why do you call this pasture the Parker place or the McAtee place? Well, that's where it goes back to.
Sure. Yeah, I bet.
So it's pretty
That's how
neat.
it got its name.
Yeah. That's
But,
yeah.
yeah. And that was,
Gladys's husband was the mechanic.
yeah. She
And they
married
were-
Ralph and Burl Howe, and he was from Seymour, Texas. And his family had a ranch down there and had a filling station in Seymour. And they, anyway, and I don't know what year it was, but Grandpa, Uncle Burl, run them old thrashing machines and all of that down in there. He learned how to do, and he came up to visit them. Things was tough at Seymour, and they came up here to visit, and his folks sent him a telegraph, said, if there's any work up there, you need to stay, because there isn't any down here. And it didn't work, and they didn't go work. So they stayed, and they lived just east of Duck Pond from Gladys's, where Sterling lives, where that crossing goes across, just to the south, a little ways down there. There used to be a little grove of trees. They lived there in one house.
Okay, I know. Well,
You remember that house? Yeah.
remember pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And she's
it burned in 17.
yeah.
It was there for all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly where it was.
But and anyway,
Aunt May's husband then worked on windmills. And
Uncle John he's electrician, and he was wheel man, and he did all of that for him. And Uncle Burl stayed up there and had the shop up there on the hill. And as they got away from the teams and started getting them old tractors, them old F-30s and different things. I remember them old. My goodness, it's terrible. One of them, one time I was running one, I was just a kid, and the seat hung over the back, on them old F-30s, and it broke off.
Oh.
I fell right down in front of that drill. And anyway, but yeah, they stayed there, and then Uncle Ralph ended up, and that was South Tanner,
Okay.
was where Uncle Ralph lived, and there was something right there I was going to tell you that was a pretty good story.
Well, it'll come to you, I bet.
Yeah, it will.
So, do you want to take a break for a second? We want to take a little quick break?
Sure.
Okay, let's take a little break. Just a second.
yeah,
When
Grandpa married May Beebe.
maybe.
Uh-huh.
Then after that, he married Helen Hughes, and she was a school teacher down by Logan, down in that area. But he married Helen Hughes, and they had 2 children.
That was in 18, what did you say, 90?
1896, I believe.
Which Grandpa married the first
Married.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know what year that he married Grandmother Helen.
No, I don't know.
But they had 2 children. That was he was married to May BB, and they had the 7, and they were all born in that house. And he married Grandmother Helen, and they were born in that house. And he had a boy and a girl. BG, Kyle's grandpa.
Okay, Kyle Barby.
Yeah,
Okay.
was Helen. Helen was his mother. And but before that happened, that was in 1935. They had a girl, was Doris Carroll, and she was the oldest. Doris Carroll was the oldest, and then BG was born. And the Dust Bowl days, the Dust Bowl, and she was born, and she died in 1935 at the age of 13 in that house, and they had her funeral there. Well, with dust pneumonia.
Dust pneumonia.
Yeah. And so Grandmother Helen never would stay in that house. So they moved up by my place. There was that house where Lloyd lived, where
Abby.
Charlie and
Yep.
Abby lived. It was just a little house. They built onto it 2 or 3 times, but that's where they lived. And then they later moved to town, and they lived there straight west of the Church of God, up there about 2-3 blocks there on the corner when I was a kid. And then he moved back to the Beebe place and fixed that place all up, put brick walls, and had Lila flowers, and huh?
Got lots of tulips.
Tulips, not tulip gardens, and built them that rock wall, and that was a beautiful place at one time.
Oh yeah.
And
So what's the house to the west of that one? Down in there where the headquarters is? Is that the BB place? That's the BB
west
place.
there. That was the BB
That's
place.
BB place. Okay,
That's
yeah, I had
where
all the
Grandpa-
rock retaining walls.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
what. And then that lake back up there, and
Right behind it, yeah.
he had it. He's got pipe run out of that lake down there, and he'd water all them flower gardens and
Really?
stuff with out of that lake, that spring. If you go up there on that hill, there's a nice lake back up
Oh
there.
yeah, there is. It's a
You've
pretty
probably
lake.
been up there.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. That's the way it was when I was a kid. It washed the dam out later, and Uncle Burl built that dam that's there now. And yeah, that's where he lived when he died. He was up on he stayed up on that top deck of yards. There was a tree up there, and he had an old chair under that tree, and that's where he stayed. He'd go up there every day and sit in that chair. Well, he was coming back down to the house and fell and broke his hip, and he wouldn't go to the hospital. So they had the doctor come out. I think it was Calhoun, early years, first of Calhoun's years.
Yeah.
And they had a portable X-ray. I don't remember how they found out. Well, anyway, he wouldn't go to hospital. So Calhoun got a specialist out of Oklahoma City to come out there, and they laid him on the kitchen table and operated on his hip and put it together. And he stayed there. And he after that, he got to where he could walk. He's
Really?
got along pretty good. Yeah, I think they had to pin that hip. But yeah.
And
Well-
he used to sit there, and when Stanley would go visit, and they'd sit out in the evening.
Oh, yeah.
talk, tell him
He'd
stories.
tell me story after story.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I bet he's seen a lot of stuff.
Oh, he did. He saw a lot of stuff. He back up there. He's at Englewood, back to the west, back up in there. I've never been there, but there was a box canyon there somewhere, and they had he was on the camp. I think he probably was at Tainer. I don't know where he was at, but the Indians were migrating to the northwest, going up to, they jumped reservation, and they'd jump reservation, and they'd be going north. They'd go northwest up there where they had who was it? They killed that Army general.
Was it Custer?
Custer.
Yeah, about a little bighorn.
Anyway, yeah. And anyway, they was hungry. And the cowboys would be camped, and they'd they'd steal their stuff, kill a cow or kill something, to eat.
Mhm.
And it was terrible for the cowboys. It messed up their deal, their camps and all that. As they just kept stringing through over the years.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said that one time he came, there was two of them at this camp up there somewhere. And he left earlier. They'd take turns of cleaning the dishes after breakfast. And there was a hill canyon. It was down on the creek there somewhere, probably the Tainer. I don't know where it was, but he went up the hill, went up out of the creek, and he said he didn't know what caused him to turn back, but he looked back, and the Indians was going in that cabin, and that guy was in there washing dishes, and he thought, oh boy. And so he went clear around. He went real long ways off and come back around the backside, come up on the backside of that cabin and crawled up there. And he said he didn't know what he's going to find. Looked in the window, and that cowboy was sitting in the corner, and they were eating. They were getting something to eat.
Get something.
But anyway, he said they never did, have fights or kill anybody, but
Right.
they just was hungry.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of old arrowheads and stuff in that country over there. I mean.
Yeah. And so the Cowboys finally decided the cavalry wasn't doing anything. They had the cavalry at Fort Supply.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cowboys gathered up Indians. They had rounded up Indians, and they took them up there west of Englewood, wherever this place is. There's a box canyon, the Red Hills, up there. And they put them in that box canyon and held them and sent a man after the cavalry. And they kept them in that canyon, I think, for 2 days and nights, and held them in there. And the cavalry come and got them Indians.
Really?
Going to take them back to the reservation down in Oklahoma. And the first day out, the Indians got away from the cavalry.
Got away from the Cowboys had them gathered, and cavalry let them go.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. He'd tell me that story. He'd talk about the drives that come through this country from Texas cattle drives. He said it wasn't anything like what you hear and read.
It was nothing.
He said nothing like that. He said there might be 2 cowboys with 2,000 cattle.
We had an old dipping vat down there. And I know there was no dipping vat there in that Tainer deal.
Oh yeah, it's back west of the house.
Well, yeah,
that ditch, I think it's still
there. Yeah, we
so.
Found it. I think me and Dylan and Britt went and found it not too long ago. Yeah. There's still part of our dipping vat. We built a new set of pins there, and I had to take part of that old dipping vat out, but the rock and the foundation on one side of it was still there. And my granddad said that they used to dip them before they crossed over into Kansas to going up to Dodge.
Ticks and
stuff.
Yeah, they plowed around no man's land, and they wouldn't let them cross. They're afraid of ticks and stuff coming in. They had to drive that herd west, clear down, I think, to Boise City, and come around. Yeah.
The no man's land, like the Tainer Ranch, Fred Tainer's. There was law in Kansas. And then there wasn't law right there.
No law here.
No law here.
All the gangsters.
All the outlaws would go to Dodge and do shenanigans and come hide from them down there.
Yeah.
That's a long history that you hear. But I just.
Well, what's that? Those outlaws that was at Meade?
Dalton Gang.
Mm-hmm. They had that tunnel from up there. You ever go down that tunnel?
Oh yeah.
Go down. They had kept them horses down under that draw. They kept them horses under the bank. Kind of had a place there. It was a neat deal.
Yeah.
Where they could get down that. Well, see where they went when they left there. They came to that lake on the place that Dylan just bought.
I was on the Tanner deal. That
No.
Knowles thing?
It's west.
Carriers.
Oh yeah,
The
the carrier.
carriers.
Yeah.
Okay, if this north
At the
east
camp pasture.
that dam down in there just above Lonnie.
Yeah.
Lonnie's,
Right.
This right there. That was south. What was their name? The Dalton.
Yeah.
That was South Dalton's.
Really?
They left up. They'd leave up there and come down there and camp until it was safe to go back to Kansas.
No kidding.
But yeah, that South Dalton. That they called that South Dalton.
Really?
Yeah, and they'd all them Dalton Gang.
They called the hideout. That's what they call it, the hideout now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, it all makes sense. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew it's called the hideout for the last few years, but
Yeah, the hideout.
Huh.
It's kind of neat.
That's
place.
beautiful down there.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know it was there.
Yeah, I didn't either. I'd never been there.
I mean,
I never been there. Dylan's
Yeah.
telling me about it and wanting to know, and I said, I've never been there.
Yeah, and I jumped in Dylan. Well, as a kid, my Aunt Doris and Uncle Robert, they lived
Lived
right
up there on the hill.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
didn't know
yeah.
it was over the hill there.
Yeah, those kids were. I remember when they were raised.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but they lived
little.
right.
They're quite a bit younger than me. And,
Yeah, but I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
That's neat. Okay. Well, I mean, they had to come down in here. No law presence.
Oh yeah, well, no man's land is. That's where they'd go.
Well, I remember somebody. I don't remember. I don't know if there's any truth to it. Somebody told me a story that old Cowhan went up to Dodge City and bought him a new saddle and came down to Fred Tanner's and thought he played a joke on somebody that was in there in the bunkhouse and tied his horse up and kicked the door open and said, "Sheriff." Well, some old outlaw was in there, ran out the back door, came around and stole his horse and brand new saddle. And they were just played a joke on
Isn't
it.
that something?
Yeah. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I've always thought it's a pretty funny story.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's in that. There's a book I think I read that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to it. Where did we leave off? So
That's how Grandpa started putting the place together.
put it together.
Yeah, and
So there's 7 grandkids, or was there 9?
there's 9. He had 9 kids altogether.
Yeah, had 7.
But
first
he had
marriage.
first marriage, and then he remarried grandmother Helen, and that's the one I knew.
Okay,
I knew grandmother Helen,
you knew grandmother Helen.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so where'd it go from there?
You named all the kids, and Ralph was
Ralph was the youngest boy. Yeah,
your dad.
and then Aunt Gladys was the youngest child. Aunt Alice was the youngest child, but Uncle Ralph.
And the 3 boys and the grandpa formed a partnership when they got out of school.
Yeah. Well, he wanted those kids to get an education. Grandpa was self-taught. He never had any schooling. And he taught himself by reading
Dictionary.
Webster's dictionary.
Really?
He would read that in them camps. He'd study that dictionary. That's how he educated himself. That was the only education he had.
Really?
Yeah. But he was a math genius.
Yeah.
He was
He
sharp.
was a sharp pencil.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was sharp, but he
It had to be. I mean, you went through the Dust Bowl. He went through a lot of stuff, though.
Oh yeah, he went through some tough times.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he wanted those kids to have education. So he sent them to Goodwill. They had a high school out there.
Are you starting your story, or are you?
Yeah, we're good. Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, no.
And so he sent them, he gathered them all up and sent them out to Goodwill. He went out there and bought a house. And he had a cousin that lived up there west of Knowles on the Smith place. I can't remember their name, but it was a cousin to Grandpa, some of his family. And he hired her to go out there and stay with those kids and feed them. Uncle Ralph and Otto went to, that's where my dad married his first wife. And he came back to help Grandpa. And he came back and stayed to help him with the ranch. And then he had two children, Lloyd Jr. and Bonita Spear. And they, my dad's first wife died with one of those kids. It'd been Bonita had been the oldest, and
It was the third child.
they had the third child, and they lost them both.
Lost them both.
Yeah. Anyway, then he remarried my mother, and she was from Balco. Her family, there's lots of story about all of that. Their family went through a terrible time, but they went out there, the deck place, a mile east of Balco, straight east. It's Myers now, I think, lives out there. But that was where my mother's family was, and he went out there. They went out there. Daddy and Uncle Ralph and Grandpa went out there to look at some cattle, buy some cows, and that's where Uncle Ralph met Aunt Marie. Aunt Marie was my mother's older sister, and he met her and married her. And then after Daddy's first wife died, he went back out there and married my mom's sister to Marie. So I was double cousin to Sturt and Carla Mae and Beverly, and they were just like brother and sister to me.
Yeah,
and
married
Uncle Ralph
sisters.
and Aunt Marie were just like my mom and dad. Of course, my dad died when I was 14.
Well,
When I was 14 in 1955, and so he died the 31st of August, I believe it was, and I just turned 50, I guess 14, and
so you were the youngest of that?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, my dad and mother had there's three of us kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had an older brother and a sister that was 3 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Brother was 5 years older, and they both passed.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, he back to school. Uncle Ralph and Uncle Otto, he sent them to Harvard.
Stanford.
Stanford.
California.
Stanford, California, to college. And that's where Uncle Otto got his education, law degrees and stuff.
Lordy.
But they were captain and co-captain of the polo team.
Really?
Out there while they were in college. Yeah, they played polo. They took, I don't know, I guess they rode them horses out there. I don't know where it came from, but my dad loved to play polo. They played polo. They'd, Dr. Benzigerty was one of the first doctors that I knew. Before him was Dr. Long. Dr. Long had the Ford garage, and he lived at that brick house that's still there, up there west of the Church of God.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, they, where was I at?
There's out there at Stanford.
Yeah, they were out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then when they come home and they got Daddy and Dr. Benzigerty playing polo. Doctor was the doctor. He was the doctor that fixed me up after I had my first horse wreck when I was 9. And he's one. Him and Dr. McGrew. Dr. McGrew had this house up here in the middle of town that's got the fenced-in area around it.
Mm-hmm.
That was Dr. McGrew's. And then Dr. Benzigerty lived where Dean Charles used to live. That was the house. Dr. Ben built that house, and so anyway, they'd play polo, and they'd play polo at Capo Ranch, this east of that headquarters house,
Mm-hmm.
up on the side of that hill. That's pretty nice, and it was a buffalo flat area. Well, that was their polo,
Polo
where they played polo.
field.
They played a lot of polo, played teams around
The
different.
Engelmans played too.
The Engelmans.
Oh,
did?
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
England, Hal.
So like Knowles area. I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit. You know, y'all moved that motel out there. What was that Knowles? When did it kind of form and stuff there? Do you remember? Or was it called Sand City?
I don't know.
I didn't know if Knowles
That's
was.
before my time. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but I know it was before yours, but I didn't know.
Well, I know several times Art Dyer and Bill Dyer, and they'd tell me about that. They many times. I think how many there was. I forget how many elevators. There were 7 lumber yards, I think, at one time.
At Knowles.
Yeah,
I mean, Knowles is just a
yeah.
long trot from
Well, this the railroad.
the road.
Well, yeah, Sand City. That kind of brings back memories. Sand City was south.
Okay.
And the railroad came and they moved it up there to the railroad, and it become
Come to
Knowles.
Knowles. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Sand City was back south.
Right south of it. Okay.
Yeah, and but anyway, yeah, there was quite a bit of business there.
Was there?
Yeah, one time I think 2 grocery stores maybe, and one time. And I don't know, a couple of banks.
A couple of banks.
There
I didn't know. Did you guys have anything to do at the bank there, or just
No,
did everything out of the house?
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was after all of that, after Grandpa got established. No, he didn't have anything to do with the bank.
after you got established, he.
No. But
So what direction did the ranch go after they got back from Stanford and playing polo?
they put quite a bit of country together. They had that buck ranch at Ralston, and it was tied. They was solid from there clear to 6 Mile Corner, the other side of Beaver, and all the way up the river. I think 20 miles of river, and they put all of that together and bought it and put it together as they could, and then they had the ranch was Otto, Barby and Sons, and that was Uncle Ralph, Daddy, and Otto, and Grandpa, and Aunt Gladys was the bookkeeper. She died in 1953.
Alice.
What did I say?
Alice.
Yeah, Alice was.
Alice was bookkeeper.
And then he lost his bookkeeper, and it was a mess. It started being hard on him. And then in 1954, he died. And then in 1955, in August, my dad died with a heart attack. And my grandpa always said, Aunt Gladys said he always said that he was going to live forever. He didn't need to have a will. He didn't need to do anything because he'd live forever. Well, I know what the deal was. He just didn't want to have to tell who got what, because as he put land together, whichever one of them went with him is whose name they put it in. Whichever one of them boys happened to go with him that day when he bought it, he'd put it in their name, and he had land in everybody's name, all the kids' name, the girl's name. It's a mess. No will, nothing. Bookkeeper died. He died. My dad died, and I was 55. I guess I was 14, 15 years old. And there was my mother, and my brother was in college, and Lloyd was a half brother that lived next to us. And then Otto was a judge, and Uncle Ralph was at the East End. My sister married the banker's daughter, or son, Kafke, and her was the only son of George Kafke, who owned this sale.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister then had 3 or 4 children? 4, and then divorced. But anyway, I started taking care of my mother's deal for her, and ended up, with that, and then BG had the old Leonard Ranch, which is down by Clear Lake, and he ended up with that part, and he was oil and gas in Oklahoma City, and he was a geologist. That's just when the gas deal had started. They leased this ranch. They leased the ranch the first time, and I can't tell you what year. I could probably figure it out. But anyway, the oil and gas, they leased 70 sections the first time to Shell. And there's enough money to pay for their winter feed bill for the cows. And they leased that ranch for 1 year. Well, it expired. They leased it another year. Enough money to feed the cows. So that's how they were keeping the cows fed. And then I think it was the 3rd year, Shell didn't lease it. But Cabot came in and leased it. And I think they had 70 some sections put together. And they drilled the first well in 55. My dad was still alive. And it was north of my house, back up there on top of one of them sand hills. They drilled that well, and I remember he'd take me with him up there as they was drilling. Of course, we'd never seen any of this. I mean, it was all Greek
I bet.
to everybody. Well, he'd go up to make sure they found some gas. He was wanting to be sure they found something. Well, them roughnecks didn't know nothing. So he started to, they didn't know whether they had well or water, or gas or water,
Right.
So anyway, he'd go back up there. Well, he died in August, and just after they'd got that well drilled. And I never will forget, there was one of them roughnecks, and he told one of them roughnecks when I was with him, he said, if you'll hit gas, because he's afraid they'd drill and would, he's afraid they'd get to him. So he said, if you hit gas, I'll feed you a barbecue dinner. I'll come up here and cook you a barbecue dinner. Well, they got that well drilled and they hit gas, but they just, shut it, just capped it in. And that rig was gone. Them guys were gone. I mean, overnight.
Yeah.
And well, he didn't get them fed. And I run into an old boy at a roping, and he was up in years, and he heard my name, and he come and told me about that. And he said, I'm still mad we didn't get our barbecue dinner.
No. That's crazy.
Anyway, but they didn't, well, when they leased the country for oil and gas, they didn't know anything. They didn't have anybody that knew anything about leasing and about how the game's played.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is when they're still in the partnership.
Oh, yeah. And Daddy was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I think Grandpa had died. Well, he'd have been still alive when they leased some of it down through, but he didn't see the well drilled.
Right.
And they didn't know anything when they put all that in one lease. And one well held it. And so they took a screw.
So they had that one well that production
held in 7 sections,
and they held 70 sections with that one that one drilled well.
Well, of course we learned. And the
Sure.
lawyer didn't know anything. It was Keith Drum, Well, he wasn't any smarter about oil and gas than we were.
Right.
Well, it wasn't in the country.
Yeah.
And so they messed up by it really hurt, you know.
And how long was that contract or that lease on that? They were just
until they quit
producing that well.
Yeah. Oh, I still got. He did get it before he'd signed. Daddy had signed on the one that my place is in. He got us free gas, and we'd have free gas as long as any one of those 70 wells was producing. And so I have free gas, but when Cabot started moving out, you know, when they sold out to different places, and it become not Cabot.
Yeah.
With Cabot, when Cabot had it all, I didn't have any trouble, but it changed hands a couple of times, and they designate a well close to my house and pipe me gas.
Right on the edge of buffalo pasture, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, it's in the buffalo pasture.
Yeah.
Well, it first was south of the river, the well there, and I don't remember what happened, but anyway, they started letting us have gas out of this other. Of course, we just got gas coming through. Then they put that big pipeline from Laverne to Mocaine. Well, they hooked us up to that pipeline. I'm hooked up to that big pipeline, and the only thing about it is that it frees up in the wintertime and I'd be shut off, you know, I finally got that fixed. But Cabot, when Cabot kind of sold out and everything, the company that ended up buying that well where they're taking my gas, that well's charged for furnishing my gas. Well, it's starting to deplenish and deplete. And so I was using as much gas that well was making. So they wrote me a big letter and get out, you know, go down and do it. And I had a war with that deal. But when it was all said and done, they finally said, he can get well from 70 sections. He can get gas from 70 sections, 70 wells. So if they ever run out, why, you know.
You finally won on the end of that contract.
Oh, yeah. Finally.
It took a few years.
Yeah. Took me a while, but I got that done.
Right.
Yeah.
So after your dad passed and you took care of your mom's deal, were you guys running cows then?
Yes.
Everything cows.
All cows.
What kind of cows were y'all running?
All Herefords.
All Hereford.
All the ranch, the whole ranch, all my life was just Hereford cows and horn bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, good Hereford cows. They had some good Hereford cows. Yeah.
So when you were, 14, 15, stepping into a pretty big role, you guys, your spring works for probably, you're dragging calves for.
Oh yeah, 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Where would you start?
Yeah. Oh, just whoever got drawn first. I don't remember. We had an old truck that we'd haul our horses to the east end, and ride from Uncle Ralph's. That was headquarters when we was off down in that country. It'd all go from there. And
we're going to come back to that real fast, but real quick before we get there, you had a horse wreck when you were
9.
9 years old. What happened there, and tell me that story.
Well, bad flood. It hurt this country bad. There at my place is a big alfalfa field there east of my house. Oh, it's pretty. I can remember it. I can remember where the gates were. I remember, seeing all that. But we had a flood. They had the flood at Mount Kaplan at the head of the Beaver. It rained 40 days and 40 nights, I think. But it was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, here that came. Well, this bridge here was completely underwater.
No.
And that where the bank is now, that was the North Lumberyard. And it was built just like that south one, with the 2 runs, and water run through those at this lumberyard.
At the First Security?
Yeah, First Security. Yeah, First Security Bank.
First Security.
Yeah.
The lumberyard was just north of the bank.
Uh-huh.
I can remember that was all water run through there. That's how deep it was. I mean, this thing here would all be underwater.
And that was before tamaracks and stuff. It didn't have the tamarack cover.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It was all just grass.
Well, it was grass and trees. Beautiful.
Grass, beautiful.
Well, it washed things out. You can't believe what that was like. It was horrible. And then it turned dry. And it just washed up. When it come down that river, everywhere it went, and there was a stump or anything, it'd roll over that and wash holes. And there was holes everywhere. And then the sand started blowing. Well, it covered them holes with sand, and you didn't know where it was. We lost a team east of my house in one of them. If a horse or something got in one of those where the hole was, it was just bog and mud. And they just went down. I mean, we ended up having to shoot them.
You know, when I was a kid growing up, I mean, quicksand was real to me, you know, but I bogged down in the river, but my granddad was really, really adamant about where we crossed in the Cimarron. Oh, yeah. Because I think my mom...
Well, they always said the Cimarron was a little worse.
Yeah.
And the duck pond was worse than Beaver.
Really?
Yeah. My dad was scared to death of that duck pond creek. When it got up, he said, "Don't you dare get in there.
Yeah.
It has an undercurrent." And
anyway.
Yeah, it was... It ruined them down this river. It really ruined them alfalfa fields. It changed the course of the river. It was a different deal. Well, it would have been 49, 48 or 49. I think that flood was in 47. And I think the bridge at my place was wood, and it washed out that bridge, sections of it. And there was one complete section that floated it clear down there almost to the BB place. And it hung up on a bank or something, and was there for years. But my cousin, Stuart, he's 5 years older than me. He was the same age as my brother. And he was wild and reckless. Ralph's boy. And their daughter was married to a man that was in St. Louis, and they lived up there at first. After they got married, they ended up back down here, but they were up there, and she got deathly sick, and so they loaded up and went up there to her, and they left Stuart to come to our place and stay for Mom and Daddy to take care of him. They had some hired men to take care of Uncle Ralph's end. And so he was going to ride up. He was riding up the river with these clothes and stuff to stay at our place. And Oliver Wilhelm was the president of Oklahoma State University, Stillwater. He was president, nice man. And he had one boy named Richard. And he'd bring Richard. He got with my dad, and they become real good friends. And he'd bring Richard out every summer, and leave him at our place all summer to work for my dad. He said, "I don't care what you do, you just teach him something."
Yeah.
So he was out there, nice man. He's a nice man. Anyway, he ended up at Des Moines, Iowa. Ames, Iowa. Yeah, Ames, Iowa, to college. And he was a professor up there. And he was the one that developed the EPDs with gardeners.
Oh, really?
He's the one that started that. Got that started. But anyway, he had just got here. 27th day of May. He just got here like the day before. And it was on a Sunday. So Stuart was coming up the river. And they were going to have Sunday dinner at my place or something, at Mother and Dad's. And my sister, Bonita, and all of them was going to come, and going to have fried chicken dinner on Sunday. And so we were going to ride down the river and meet Storied. So we got down, and he's going to come up the river. Well, we met right down in there below headquarters somewhere, about halfway, which we met him. And he had a big old brown horse that was a nice horse. And I had a yellow horse that I thought was the best in the world. And my dad had bought for me. And so we were coming back up through there. Well, we got up there about where Leland's place is, where his shop is, at his place. And those cottonwood trees that was in row, that was a stagecoach trail. And that was a fence that they had built with green cottonwood trees, or posts. And that's how come that was a row of trees. There was a row of trees through there for, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles, clear to headquarters, where that was. We was right down along those trees. I remember
in
that.
the river pasture.
This below Leland's shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were coming up through there, and we was just right below that lake that's there around that house of Leland's and that shop. You know what? That lake, that pond, it was there.
Right.
That's all that was there. But there had been a house up there before. I didn't remember it, but it had all fell in, and there was still some boards and stuff there. Junk. There wasn't anything else there. Well, we was coming down that trail where that row of trees was, and where the Leland's shop is, about right in there. Well, between Uncle Ralph's and my place, there was only 2 gates, 2 pastures. I mean, there was only 2 fences. Well, there was one right there. That was the first one east of my house, where I lived. And so we coming up there, and we was arguing like 2 kids. And my dad had always told me if I ever raced my horse, he'd whip me, take him away from me. You know, I wouldn't ever have a horse race. Anyway, Storied and I got to arguing over which horse was the fastest. And okay, whoever loses has to open that gate. So we was back off down there a quarter of a mile or so. We had us a horse race. Richard was riding. He'd started a colt the year before when he was out here. And he had this colt saddled and was riding him with us, you know. And he had him broke enough that he was trailing along with us. Well, he said, okay, I'll start you. So he got out of the road down there, and he said, I'll holler and go. So he lined up. Well, that river had been all through there, and that was, you know, settling, and there was rat holes. There was rat holes everywhere. I mean, you couldn't ride a horse in some of those places. Well, we come flying down through there, and he was outrunning me just a little. Anyway, my horse stepped in one of them rat holes, and I mean, he did turn a somersault. We was just flying. Well, he just turned right over me. I remember when he got up, my legs was still up on that saddle, you know, and he got up, and my left leg just started, I went trying to catch it to keep, and it just flopped down. Well, it broke this hip, and broke my back, and then that bottom vertebrae. And but anyway, there I lay. You know, there we was, middle of nowhere, and a long ways from anywhere, and no roads coming down through there. There was just horse and team, you know. And they had a cake trail, clear back up there by the pens between 3 and 4. And you could go from my house back up that way and then come down and get down there to Grandpa's. And our bridge was out. I mean, that bridge was out for several years. But they had to take us around. We had to go clear around to Forgan.
Go Mocane all the way out.
Mocane and to Forgan, and to get here. That was the only way to get here in a car or motor. So they'd leave me in town a lot. I'd have to stay up here where Otto lived, out there where, Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
That house right there, that was Otto's
Kevin
house.
Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'd leave me in that basement in that house. That's where, and I hated it. I hated school. I hated town. But anyway, they they had them ranch. The ranch had a phone, and it was a 1-wire phone hanging on a black locust post. The post that cut them trees as tall as they could get them, and that was their telephone poles. And they'd have a pole about ever this as far as they could keep that wire up enough where you could ride under it. You know, you didn't dare run through there; you'd hang yourself horseback. But they had them lines run clear to Ralph's. They run down through here and went one at Grandpa's to put in a telephone at Grandpa's headquarters, and Uncle Ralph's and on over, and then back up to Uncle Burl's and Aunt Gladys's at the shop, and they all had a distinct ring. Ours was a long, short, and a long, and Uncle Burl's was 3 longs, and Grandpa's was one big ring, or if there was an emergency, if there was something wrong, well, it was one, they'd just keep a ringing. You know, it's them old crack phones, and they'd ring it. And then from my place to Beaver, General had a telephone line run. And my mother was the operator. She had 2 phones, one at the ranch and one to town. So everybody called her to get hair appointments or whatever they was doing in town with it. If Grandpa or if Uncle Burl needed something for repairs, why she'd have to. Anyway, they had a phone at Grandpa's, and this was west of Grandpa's. So Sturt went back to Grandpa's to call to my dad, to mother, and tell him about I was hurt. And so I lay there, and I guess I'm just sure I've thought about it many times, but I must have passed out because it didn't seem like it was very long before they got there, and it had to take them an hour to get there. And anyway, Richard stayed there with me, and I just laid there flat on my back, and it hurt like hell, and so I couldn't move. So they got there.
He got a board.
Richard went up to that. They said, well, his legs broke. We got to get him some way. Got to get him. Daddy had an old 49 Mercury that had them suicide doors. You know, them suicide doors that opened from the front on the back door, folded back. And so Richard went up there to that old house by the lake to get a board, get something to put me on. And there was a 1x10 or wide board there that he found, and he dug it out of there and picked it up. Well, there was a rattlesnake under it. And he said, I just left him alone, brought that board, and they come on down there. Well, they slid that board under me, clear up my back, and they took their belts off and tied my leg to that board, tied me to that board. And they could get me in that car, and them doors opened wide enough. They got me in that car, and they hauled me to Beaver when the hospital was still 3 stories. It was 2 stories and a half. Half of that bottom floor was underground. And that was maintenance and I don't know what all. And then the next story was where you went in. And I don't know why, but you had to go upstairs to get in the hospital.
Don't make much sense, does it? I was sitting there thinking about it.
And that was the nurse's desk. Well, the main desk to the hospital was there first. And then you went on, and when you come down that elevator, upstairs was the rooms. That's where they were, upstairs. People upstairs that was sick and hurt or needed help, instead of having them down on the first floor, they had them on the top floor. And anyway, to the right was the operating room. And to the left was the x-ray room. Well, I knew where they were at. I mean, every morning, they'd come up there and get me roll that bed down, put it on the elevator and go down. And they'd go left and go in there to x-ray me. Well, the x-ray machine was so old, and it wasn't as good enough. They couldn't find anything. They kept taking pictures, trying to find. And they told me, said, well, we're going to x-ray you in the morning. And if we don't find anything, you're going to have to walk. I said, I ain't walking. I can tell you that right now. I ain't about to walk. And I said, I can't walk. I knew I was. And so the next morning, they x-rayed me. And it'd been like the 8th day. Well, nobody said anything. Here the daylight, here the doctors come, they had white masks on and just all kinds of stuff on them. I wonder what's going on here. And I never will forget thinking about, well, what are we doing? So we went downstairs. Well, instead of them going left to the x-ray room, they went right. Well, I knew something was up, and I started kicking. I was fighting. I kicked everybody with my right leg I could hit. They finally got a hold of me. We went in that operating room, and they operated. They went in there, and the nurse was a man nurse, and he lived up there north of Forgan. And I think his name was Froggett. I think something like that. Anyway, he come in there, and he was the gas man. I remember him, here he come, when I was still kicking and screaming, and because I knew they was going to do something to me. And he come with that mask, and they grabbed my arms, and my dad was in there. He held one arm, the doctor, and they slapped that mask on me. And to this day, if I smell ether, if I smell ether a mile away, I can tell you what. I'll tell you. And boy, I mean, they held that over me, and that was the last thing I remembered, But they put a plate and screws, and tied my hip and my leg back together, and put all that together. And they didn't do anything to my back. I couldn't do anything. It just broke out in its place. I just pay for it now.
Yeah.
And anyway, how'd I get off on that?
Anyway,
Hello.
Your dad.
Oh yeah, my dad was in there and helped them, and so they needed help when they got in there to me to put that plate and them screws in there. Well, one of them bones was smashed up so bad that it wouldn't hold screws, but they had to drill holes in that bone to get that screw in there, and so they needed somebody. They had to hold me in some way, and anyway, they had one of them little old hand grinders. And they had my dad drill a hole in that leg. He told me about it later.
I bet.
Yeah.
Do you still pack that around in there?
Oh yeah, it's still there. You can take X-ray there. It's just as pretty. Yeah, they were going to take it out.
Yeah.
By the time I healed up where they could move me, that bone had already started growing over them screws in that plate.
Yeah.
And they just left it. Yeah, oh yeah. I've got a scar from right here clear to my knee. And, it's old time.
A long summer.
Oh, no air conditioning. Just my mother had an old fan, and she'd wet a sheet, and they'd hang it over me in that bed, and then put that fan down where it blow underneath that. That's the only cool I had. Yeah, it was a long summer.
How long was your cast?
Well, I had a cast on then from my ankles to under my arms,
Okay.
all the way down. I had a pee hole and a poop hole. And all of them hairs would get to itching. And I had me a wire, and I'd slide that down through there. And boy, it just...
You had that all summer?
All summer. I've got a picture of me laying in this book. There's a picture in there. I was laying. They had a wheelchair. My cousin had polio, and he had a wheelchair that lay down, and they brought that out there and hauled me around. They'd take me outside and let me sit out under the tree, sit outside. But all summer. Then when school started, I think I started school in a wheelchair. They got me good enough to go to school, and then I had that cast on till then, and then they took me to school, and I ended up. It was after Christmas before I got off my crutches, pretty near a year, yeah.
Oh.
But Yeah, it was a long summer.
No, I wanted to fit that one in there because that was, we were at where you kind of started helping your mother take over and stuff,
Yeah.
and I knew I got a little inside information on that question to ask. Dylan texted me this morning, and
Oh, really?
yeah, he said, make sure you ask him about that.
Yeah. He knew I was doing this?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, man. I wasn't going to tell him.
Yeah.
He roped while he was in that wheel.
Oh, yeah, I had a wheelchair. They had me when I got my cast off of my body, well, they put me in a wheelchair, and I could roll that wheelchair. Well, I'd go outside, and I had me a cotton rope, little old white cotton rope, and I'd rope the dogs and the cats until they wouldn't come in the house. They'd leave as soon as I'd come out that door. So mother had chickens. She had hens, and she raised eggs, and she had a brooder house over there that she kept them cooking chickens in and fed them. And she had her a bucket on the corner of the yard. I can still see it. And she had a hole in the bottom of it. She had her wire. They'd get ready to fix dinner. They'd go down there and catch them chickens with that wire. Oh, they'd catch 5 or 6, drag them up there at that bucket, and grab their legs and stuff them in there, and they'd stick their head down there and she'd cut their heads off. But anyway, I'd go down there. Well, there was a pretty good pen around them, but the other chicken house didn't have a pen. They just went in the house. Well, I'd rope them chickens, just turn them bottom side up. It's nothing better to get one of them suckers headed, turn it bottom side up until there wasn't no chickens around it. And I'd have to go down and go in where there's a pen and keep chickens around me. And then she'd catch me. Come around me out there. But I roped chickens. That was kind of my favorite thing to do, is rope
Really?
chickens with that cotton rope.
That's pretty neat. Is that where you kind of?
Oh,
That's where the
I always
passion
wanted
gets-
a rope in my hand.
Yeah.
Always had a rope.
Always did.
Always. And yeah. Oh, yeah, I always had a rope. I was always roping something I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Get a bull rope, couldn't get it off of him.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my college life was, I don't know how come we got off of it, but I didn't get to tell about that. But my mother was bound determined I was going to college, and I hated school. I hated school with a passion, and she was bound determined I was going to play piano. And I hadn't been to town before I started school hardly. I mean, they'd take me to church, but land, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where nothing was at or anything else. And I started school. And then she got me lessons with piano teacher. And I'd have to take my books on the day we had piano lessons, that I had piano lessons, go to piano lessons. And I'd get on that bus and I would leave my books, and she'd come running out of the house and them books, and stop the bus and hand me them piano books. And I'd just slide over on the other side as we drove away, and I'd throw them out the window. Anyway, finally her teacher called her in there one day and said, Mrs. Barby, said, I need to tell you. Said, I don't think that boy will ever play the piano. And you're wasting my time, and I'm wasting your money. I said, there is no need of him coming to play them piano. And so I got out of that. But anyway, yeah, I was scared to death when I started school.
But when you were little, you were mad if your dad didn't take you.
Oh yeah, I followed him. I followed him. I had that. This was my second one.
On the front page of that?
Yeah,
That
first one. That's Tony, and he kind of come through the family. He's a pretty good horse. He's kind of a half Shetland. He's pretty good sized Shetland. But he'd kind of stirred, I think, and rode him when he was a kid, and so after he got too little for. When they outgrew him, he worked him up the line to me. But my first one was Silver, and I think Daddy got him from Bill Spurgeon.
Oh, really?
I think. I remember. That's what I remember anyway. But I I'm not positive. But I think he got him from Bill Spurgeon, and he was a typical Shetland.
Yeah.
He was my buddy, but he was an honest son of a gun.
Rub
He'd
you off on
cold jaw
trees.
with me. He'd get me out somewhere, and he'd cold jaw and run off with me, and we had all kinds of wrecks. He'd kick me. He'd do it.
How old were you when you were going, helping your dad when you were
Oh
on silver?
man, I was probably 4.
4.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure I was horseback by the time I was 3 years old.
Sure.
And he started out with me. He got that pony, got Silver, and he every morning he'd put him in the yard. Our yard rock wall, fence around it, and he'd put that pony in that yard with just a bridle on, no saddle. And I wake up. That's where I was at. As soon as I woke up, I'd be out there. I had an old bench. Mother had an old bench, and I could get him up there and maybe make him stay till he figured out, and he'd move over this side, I'd go get on him. But anyway, that's how I'd get on him. I'd get him up by that bench and jump on him. Yeah.
We still got there at the ranch at my granddad's house. That our rock wall's still there for his pen. He built that. I don't know. I like to really know when that was built.
Yeah.
And how far they had to go to get all them rocks. And I've had to do some maintenance to it over the years, but I just love that old rock pen.
Oh yeah. That rock wall's still there at my place.
So where'd you go to college? Were you 6 weeks?
Anyway, she got me. She sent me to Panhandle. That's where my brother was going. And of course, he didn't care. I was in his road, and they got me a room. They got me with 2 in a room, and I don't remember this boy's name. He's the old kid's name, but he wasn't a good roommate. All he wanted to do was drink beer, then get sick and puke all over my bed. It wasn't going well for me.
It wasn't going well.
I didn't like that. Anyway, I was going to quit. I had an old car, and I come home. I said, I'm going to quit. Oh, she wouldn't let me. And so that went on for probably 3 weeks. Finally, she got the third or fourth week, I don't know, just before I left. She got a psychiatrist or one of them professors that was supposed to straighten you out, know. And she got meetings set up with me once a day to go sit and have a session with him. Well, I'd go in there, and it's a long room, bed, desk across the deal, and a trash can over behind him in the corner. And I'd go in there and sit down, and he smoked a pipe. And he'd spend all his time striking a match and lighting that pipe. And he'd take that match after he struck his pipe, and he could do this and put it in that trash can every time. I remember that.
Yeah.
He'd bang it. And finally, I went in there, and I had my car over there at that dorm. That old kid, I had all of him I could put up with, and I unloaded I put my stuff, put it in that car when I was going to that meeting. I went over there at that meeting and had my session with him, and he flipped his match. I don't know how many times he got down, and I said, I won't be back. I'm going. And I went out there and got in that car and drove off.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It wasn't for you.
Now, I needed it.
Yeah.
I look back, I needed it running that ranch. I needed education.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I went home, went to work, went out there, and it was still a partnership at that time when I went back. Mm-hmm. And Lloyd, my brother, half brother, lived right there, and he was running that end. Mm-hmm. And Otto's part, and then Uncle Ralph. And I went in there, and I don't know, called him somewhere, and I said, I'm coming to work. And I didn't care if they paid me. It mattered to me. As long as I had something to eat, I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started. Yeah.
Did you rodeo or anything when you guys were younger? Or there, you didn't go anywhere to
Well, when I was in high
Beaver County
school,
Fair? Or,
when I was in high school, I had a mother bought me a black horse, Blackie, and he was decent. Bought him off of Jack Long in Winoka, Oklahoma, and I don't know how I got him. Well, they had a couple of hands that was from down there, and I guess some way I got connected with them, and I was trying to rope. Before my dad died, I'd try to rope, and of course he wouldn't. He had some really high restrictions when I'd take a rope and go out by myself, you know. Anyway, he wouldn't let me tie it to the saddle horn, and he let me fix up in front of where Lloyd's barn is, where they park them trucks.
mm-hmm.
There was a fence right there. There was a fence went right down along there by that electric line, where the electric line is. And went down through it, and then all of that, where the arena is and all of that down in there, that was that big alfalfa field. Nice. And that lane went down to it. So when they run cattle in there in the wintertime in that alfalfa field, they could come up that lane to the water. Well, he let me set up some panels back up there. I wanted a place to rope, and I was roping the milk cows and everything else. So he let me do that, and he got me a couple of kids. And I'd have to put all of that together and build my pin and my chute every time I roped. I had to take it down and get it out of their rope.
Oh, really?
And then I'd have to build it all back, put it all together, and fix it up. Well, I spent more time doing that than I did roping.
Right.
I'd get to rope a couple of 3 calves or run them. I wasn't roping them, I was running them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I run them too far down there, there was a barbed wire gate on that end of that lane down there by going in the alfalfa field, and I had to quit them about the chute, about the loading chute, where that loading chute is now, right in there somewhere. I better quit them, because if I didn't, they'd run through that gate. So anyway, he never did help me. But I'd be roping, and I'd look up at the house, and there's a pear tree sitting there, and he'd have a newspaper, and he'd be peeking over the top of that newspaper, reading that newspaper.
Yeah.
And anyway, I roped there quite a bit. I roped everything I could get a hold of. But I had a black horse, and I roped calves, and I was trying to rope. I'd come up here. I don't remember how I even got there. Some way I'd get somebody to haul me to Beaver. Leland was trying to rope up here. I could rope a little there with him. But I decided I went to an FFA rodeo when I was in high school. That's the only time I ever went to at Perryton. Of course, I didn't have any business being there.
Yeah.
But I went anyway. So.
Had to go in a pickup with a stock rack.
Oh yeah, the FFA had a FFA pickup with stock racks on it, and Otto Legg was the teacher, and he'd let Don Brown and I. He'd let Don. Don was older than me, and he'd have his license, and he'd let Don haul me in that pickup.
In that pickup.
Yeah, that's the way we. Yeah.
That's how y'all got around stock racks. Probably most
Stock racks. Yeah.
most of your time out there.
Oh yeah, they had a 57 Ford and a 50 about a 50 somewhere 55 Ford and a 56 or 7 GMC with stock racks on them, wheat sides and stock racks, and that's the way we'd go to them, get long ways off.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we rode most of the time when I was a kid. I mean, we rode everywhere. We didn't have a truck or nothing, just horseback.
Mm-hmm.
Leave out and go. You'd leave out in the middle of the night.
I believe
And
When you were little, your dad would just, if you got tired, he'd leave you under a tree.
yeah, he'd leave me under a tree, but he trotted everywhere he went. He always had a horse that could trot like you couldn't believe, and he just trot everywhere. Well, my
side gonna hurt.
It hurt so bad I could, but I wasn't about to stay in the house. So.
You're right.
But yeah, and when I was little enough, I can remember him putting me under a tree, put me in the shade somewhere around the windmill or something.
Mm-hmm.
And land out, I couldn't have been over 4 years old. And, yeah.
So when you came back, partnership with the family, and you guys, everybody, you had Hereford cows.
Oh yeah.
Had Hereford cows, and how long did that all last there? The partnership after your college stint, and
65, you and
Yeah, I started in '65.
mm-hmm.
My mother made my brother part of it, and so it was him and I, because Lloyd and Otto split it all out. That's when the company all split up, and Uncle Ralph split out in '65, '64, '65, right in there, and we started, and Marion came back. I don't remember how come. I guess to help me. And he lived down at the Leonard place. We had
he was there 2 years.
2 years, and finally, and we had to do something different with brothers.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so anyway, it was just me and her. By then I was, let's see, we was married in '59. I don't remember that gap in there. Something. He left about then, I guess, about the time I got married.
You told me a story one time about when you guys were gathering, doing your branding and stuff, and you started on the east end and worked your way west. Tell us about that. About when those cows popped hot for bangs on that.
Oh, I was married.
You all were married then?
Yeah, and it was, and we were separate. We had our deal separate.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have my cows in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were different names.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did a lot of Uncle Ralph's work. Uncle Ralph was just like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He was good to me, and he helped me. He guided me. He's one that, when I bought the Allen place, talked me into buying that place. And but anyway, yeah, but I helped them just as much. They'd help me. His crew would come help me. That's how I had my help.
Right.
Was his crew. I had one hand, I think, and he had 3 or 4, and we'd go down there and do that work there, and we'd start at his place first, usually at the Buck Ranch at Ralston, and work our way up, clear up till. And Uncle John runs the cows at headquarters. He had, I don't know, a couple hundred cows probably, and we'd work his cows for him, work his kids, and then we'd when we got done, it was in the fall when we weaned, and we'd sell our calves together usually, Uncle Ralph and I, and sometimes Lloyd, and we sold them to Young and Cooper.
Okay.
Was cattle outfit in Wichita. I sold my calves to them for years, and we'd sold them for years. Always sell our calves to them usually. They'd come down and buy them. We'd ship them out at first, shipped them in the railroad, before they closed the railroad, we'd load them calves. They'd send them to Iowa. They were order buyers, and they'd have them sold to them corn farmers, and we'd ship them up there. And so anyway, that fall, when we got done weaning, shipping, we got everybody shipped and got everybody, weaned out. And what heifers we kept, I don't remember. We kept some. Anyway, we finished up at my place, and we went down through Uncle Ralph. We got to the buck place, and that old river pasture was terrible down in there. That was all one pasture, and that brush was terrible, and sand hills.
Big sand hills.
Yeah, and we'd brand up there we'd wean up there. We'd have to take them cows up there to wean them, ship the calves out of that pens up there by the house. So it was a ways on down there to the first fence to the winter pasture or river pasture. And we'd leave them cows in the horse pasture and up there close to the house till they got weaned. Then we'd go down and we'd go through them. We'd go back to all of them places as they got weaned. And cows got weaned enough that they could be put out. Why, we'd go back by there and we'd cut all of the blemishes off, bad bags and bad footed and just anything blemished. And we'd send them to, gosh, I don't remember. I hadn't thought about that. I don't remember where we shipped them to, but we'd send them to someplace. They'd end up in the packing house. And I don't know where these cows went. But we'd done everything was done, and down to that river pasture. And we went down there that day, and we sorted all them blemish cows off and had them pinned. And we'd sent some from, I don't know where, Knowles, somewhere around in that country. And, several days before, the week before or something. And we got done sorting all them blemishes off, and we drove them down to the river, put them back for the winter in that river pasture. And there was a gate there, the gate in the middle of that road. That road was sandy, and them old hills was terrible. But you open that gate and start them cows through there. Well, they's going to the river. They's going home. They'd string down through there. We count them through. So we got down there, and I don't know, there must have been 400 or 500 cows. And we counted them through the gate, got them counted. While we was doing it, why, Uncle Ralph drove up in an old Jeep. He had Ed, his son-in-law, Beverly's husband, was carrying him, driving him. Drove up down there behind us, and he got there before we got the tail end out of that, clear through that gate there still. He sat up there and watched us. We turned around, and there he was sitting up there watching us. We got it all done, got off and shut the gate. Everybody stretched, and he drove up there. He said, well, I got some good news and some bad news. And I don't know, something like, today's a nice day. But he said, we've got a banger. What? I said, well, one of them cows, such and such, banged out. And so every cow I own's got to be tested. And what? Yeah, we got to test them all.
How many cows would that have been?
Oh, I don't know, about a bunch.
Bunch.
Enough for a month's work.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, between Knowles and clear north, Tainer and all of that country. And so here they come and he said, well, there's going to be a state man and a government man. And he said, they'll help you bleed them. So we started gathering. We had to gather all them cows. All of his cows had to be gathered. Well, we gathered that first bunch, and I don't remember where we was at. I'll never forget it. we had them gathered, had a bunch gathered, and here come that car or whatever they drove up there where we was at. That state man, he crawled out. He kind of looked like a cowboy, kind of at least had on Levi's and boots and hat. The state government man growls out, and he had on slick shoes just like mine, the little old city shoes, pair of dress pants, no hat. And he looked like a dude. And I said, now, what's he? Well, he'll bleed these cows. And I said, we're in one hell of a mess. This is going to be a long session.
Yeah.
Okay. So we started, and I'm telling you what, when one of them cows hit that gate and he walked by, he had blood in his hand.
Really?
Oh man, I never saw anybody like him. He could bleed them cows. He's a nice guy, and he was just as peaceful and quiet, and just he knew how to handle cattle. He was never in the wrong place. He just he's just one of them kind of guys that he just wasn't supposed to be dressed that way.
Right.
And he could bleed a cow if she got in that chute. If you didn't get her in that squeeze, in that chute quick enough, she was in the lane. He could bleed them in that lane. And that old boy that worked for the state, after we got acquainted, I said something about, I've never seen anybody like him. He said, I haven't either. He said, I wasn't down there, but he's from Louisiana. And he said, they tell me that my friend told me that they was down there bleeding cows. And there's an old man had a dozen or so of Bramer cross cows with horns, and said they was wild and tough. Well, they didn't have a chute. And so he just had a barn. And they said, where are we going to bleed them? Well, he said, just get them in that barn door. Okay. He said they stuck one in there, one of them old snorted Bramer cows in that door. And he said he walked up there. He had that bottle and that needle in his hand. He said, open that door. And he looked back and he said, okay, if I holler, you open that door and let me out. And he said, boy, he no more than got in there. They just barely got that door shut. And he squalled at them, and they come out. He come out of there, and he had blood. He had his bottle full of blood.
No.
They said, I don't know whether it's his blood or her blood, but he had a bottle full of blood.
So how did all the test results come back on
Never
that?
found them one.
Never found another?
Never found another one.
Just
That was it. Was done. Everything was, yeah. And I don't know what. They never could figure it out. Just one cow.
Kind of
Bulls and all.
Bulls and all.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
That was a job.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
You guys, when you all branded calves and stuff, chuck wagon still then and at every branding? Or?
No, we would go to the house.
Go to the house? I didn't know if you would or not.
Women at all.
You brought
I had chuck wagon when it was kind of a
romance deal.
Yeah, kind of a romance deal, but it helped us.
Sure.
We'd take that chuck wagon and take it out and set it, like at Marie's. We'd take it to Uncle Ralph and Aunt Marie's and put it under that big tree, and it could stay there for a week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good place to eat.
Yeah.
And we'd camp there. We'd stay all night.
Mm-hmm.
I had a big tent. We took tent and still got them in a bed tent and a wagon. Yeah. That's when I had Bill Johansson. He's my cook.
He was your cook, Will?
Yeah. And he's a good cook. He just had a little trouble staying straight.
So 65. You
got 65 is when Barby Ranch was born.
That's what I was going to ask. When Barby Ranch.
All the rest of it was cattle company, and we branded. We branded 2 bar on the right thigh on them cows, and a bar circle on the bulls left shoulder. And those brands came from Fred Tainer. When Grandpa bought Jeanette and I went down to the state library.
Yeah.
And checked records. And that's when you could go to that library and they had a story or two full of all the state records.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go in there, and if you could tell them, I don't remember what we had to tell them, the land description or something. There's something that, and they'd go find what you wanted. If you wanted records on cattle or land or whatever, they wouldn't let you in there, but they'd bring it to you, and they'd have on white gloves, and they'd show you that and let you look at it, read it, find what you wanted. They'd go copy it, bring you the copy, then they'd put it back. It was quite a deal,
So
I'd never been around, but it was state records.
Well, that's like the 2-bar. That's where you found out where the 2-bar.
Yeah, 2-bar and the bar circle. And there was a letter. They brought me a letter that I don't remember, from Grandpa. Grandpa had wrote a letter to somebody or something. And anyway, it said, I finally got Fred Tainer's last place bought. You know, he'd sold a bunch of that other, but he got the South Tainer when he bought Uncle Ralph's place. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what else it said, but he got those brands. He bought those brands. Well, when he bought the place, he bought the brands with that years before.
So where'd the 2-bar go? You got
Lloyd
the bar.
got it.
Lloyd got the 2-bar. That's
Lloyd
what I thought.
got the 2-bar.
Lloyd got the 2-bar. Okay.
Lloyd got the 2-bar. Lloyd got the 2-bar and the bar circle, and I just made my own.
And the Barbie.
Yeah.
Which is pretty well known.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, that's where Barbie was. That's when it was started.
You know, there's a lot of there's a lot of Barbies.
Yeah.
People don't, they're the 76.
Oh, yeah, 76. That's Laverne Barbies.
The Laverne Barbies, yeah. And it's just how
Beaver
everything
River.
ties together,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So 65, you started out and you just...
I had 1 or 2 pickups maybe, and I don't know. Long in there, about right in there after that, I bought the first trailer that was over on that ranch. And I pulled it behind one of them pickups so where I could get somewhere, get to Uncle Ralph's or something. But you could put 2 horses in it. It was a homemade deal. And Uncle Ralph thought I was doing the wrong thing buying that trailer. Boy, we got tired of riding everywhere.
Yeah.
Dark, daylight to dark.
It's funny. My granddad, he didn't have very many, the trailer deal, and
Yeah.
had the old. Well, actually, it burned in 17. Still had that old bumper pull trailer that he had at one point. But I remember going up north to Kansas to help brand calves, and I was staying at Granddad's. I was probably 15 or 16, and I was going to go across the river up on some of Gene Sutherland's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I hooked the trailer up to that pickup, to Granddad's old pickup, that had my horses up and stuff, and one of Granddad's horses. And he asked me what I was doing. I said, we're going to brand calves in the morning. And he goes, it's just over the hill. What?
Yeah, 5 miles away.
5 miles away. 5 or 6 miles away, and I know I was the only one that rode up there to that branding that day, Had to go through 7 or 8 gates to get there,
Oh, yeah.
But took me 45 minutes to drive there, though I got there a lot faster horseback,
Yeah.
So, so I know what you mean about, I don't know exactly what you mean, but I got a little taste of it. Hitting a long trot, that side hurting.
Yeah.
My granddad gave me a piece
Wasn't
of bellow
long
wire.
until they started buying some trailers.
Yeah.
Uncle Ralph bought a trailer or 2, maybe. We had them old bobtails, and we'd load that Ford. We'd load 5, 6 horses in there, and them old horses, after the first time, they'd be so tired, and you'd ride up to one of them trucks, they'd jump in. They wanted in that truck. I never will forget that. They all of them. You didn't have no trouble loading them.
Yeah, I bet.
They'd jump in truck high.
You guys put wet saddle pads on them, though. A lot of miles. And them sand hills that you grew up on.
My gosh. I'm telling you.
Yeah. We'll take a little break for a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was worth sitting around for.
We got a long ways to go.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, we'll do whatever. I can come back.
No, that's
I'll come back Thursday. Not Thursday, but Friday.
this Friday.
And whatever day.
Well,
so let me tell you this: unless I'm going to a doctor, I'm free.
Okay. Well,
So I've been going to the doctor pretty often,
Sure.
but I'm kind of done here for a week or 10 days or two, and we can spread this out.
I thought about coming back next. I got national basketball tournament this weekend.
Sure.
My
Sure.
daughter. So
you go.
and we gotta leave Friday morning.
Yeah,
And
well-
but our sale days. They're short days, So like Monday, Tuesdays, are you good? Like in the afternoon, after.
Even during the day.
Yeah, because our sales are getting done. We got done at 10:00 Tuesday, and we was done 11:00 Monday.
Yeah.
So we can even throw it on those 2
Well,
days.
all you got to do is call me.
Hey, let's
Call me the day before.
Yeah, the
call
day
me the
before.
night before or something. You make the plan.
Yeah.
You call me.
Okay.
And unless I'm got to go somewhere
Sure.
to something, but I'm not capable of doing anything.
Yeah, well, I get it. Well,
I stay out of the road.
this right
Yeah.
here, this is so important, I think.
Yeah.
And so far,
I don't mind.
Where we're at, this
I
is-
can visit. We're just kind of getting there. We're just kind of getting started.
I know, and I think we're at a
You don't want to rush. You want
I think
Yeah.
we're at a good stop point. We'll stop there, kind of.
Yeah.